Good morning and welcome to the Fantasy Football Clown Show. I'm your host, Ed Smith. Coming to you today with something a little bit unique because I had the great opportunity of being chosen to be part of the RatPack Invitational Bestball League. And just truth be told, I haven't played in a Best Ball League since I believe 2019 when it was legal for me to do it on the Yahoo platform before Connecticut kind of had a rule that we couldn't utilize Yahoo for any paid leagues. So this is going to be my first attempt since this dynasty habit that I have has begun, and I try to stay in my lane, if you will, and so don't venture out. But this opportunity, again, drafting against people that I value their opinion and I think that they're very skilled, gave me a chance to kind of get beaten down a little bit or test some philosophies. So as we go through the draft and through my team and just kind of my observations, I think I learned a lot through the experience. So it was a very good use of about just under a week. Actually, we got through 20 rounds in this league, so it was pretty exciting, really. I have the link to the draft board posted below in the comments section, so feel free to check that out as you're watching this video. And just love to hear your comments and feedback on my draft, but on the draft in general, and who you think is going to win of the XM listeners and of especially the Jeff Ratcliffe show. And so just going to go through a couple of the reasons why I chose who I chose in the league. So just diving right into it as we go here. In the odd rounds, it was a random draft order, and I got selected to pick 10th out of 12 teams. And then in even rounds, that gives me the third pick. And there was no third round reversal or anything like that, so it was pretty cut and dry of where I picked. So 110, 203, and so just kind of roll that out down to the 2003. Was my last pick. And so in this league, we're going to start one quarterback, two running backs, three receivers, one tight end, two flex, one super flex for 10 total starters. So 120 players start each week in this league, and then there's also 120 players on a bench. So this is a player pool of 240, so it's important to realize that you want to get the best players of 240. I mean, that's the universe that we're using, and so you don't want to leave a lot of value on the board, because I still think you need to be value based in your drafting. You can't just build a team with no idea of what the other drafters in the league are going to draft, so you have to play the room a little bit. I do think, though, because this kind of a league is just focused on the draft, there's obviously no trades, no waiver pickups. It doesn't go into my wheelhouse, because in like 60 leagues last year, or out of 75 leagues actually, I guess last year, I think 60 of those 75 leagues I had the most waiver pickups out of the whole league. Now, I'm not a huge trader. I trade a lot because there's 75 leagues, but I don't trade a lot per league. I think I average 2 to 3 trades per year per team, but definitely have somewhere in the 70 to 80 waiver pickups each year. So I hit the fab runs pretty hard. I'm always shuffling the bottom of the bench to try to gain an edge and get assets to keep away from the other players in the league, or get ahead of players, just try to be first on different things, and then to cut ties when it doesn't work. So that's kind of the way I play Dynasty. So definitely different here in this best ball kind of format. And so just kind of want to reiterate that. Another point to just kind of, before we dive into the actual draft board, is I think you need to know your opponents. And I think that's an important distinction. It's important to know. And so I knew that listeners of the Jeff Ratcliffe show are going to value their wide receiver, because not that makes it wrong. It's just I know that that's where the value is placed on his show in Jeff's mind. And so I knew that if I was going to get a quality wide receiver, I needed to do that early. Now, I did set out a game plan, and it was actually so I like to be flexible with game plans, but I did set it out that of the amount of numbers that I was targeting per position. So I was thinking I would go 5 quarterbacks, and before you laugh, I have a reason for that. 5 running backs, 7 receivers, and 3 tight ends. And you guys that know me in Dynasty know I'm a quarterback hoarder, if you will, or I like to have quarterbacks because I think it's a supply and demand position, that the supply is limited at 32 starters per week. and 28 on some bye weeks, and actually 26 on the one bye week this year with 6 teams on bye. So, I know it's a limited commodity, and it also typically scores the most points. So when you have a limited commodity that scores the most points, if you control it, that adds value. So, but in best ball, it's not quite as important, and without 2 quarterbacks and just 1 super flex, you're not bound to needing the quarterback. However, part of my goal here was to not take zeros. I thought that made the most sense, to make sure that I didn't take any zeros. So I didn't want injuries to be the point that just threw me out of the running. So I did play kind of a game with a high floor, maybe a lower ceiling, but a high floor. So as this league started out, I did lots of mock drafts to see who I could get with the 10th pick, but I was thinking I was going to go receiver, and as it turned out, I got the 3rd receiver off the board, but that 3rd receiver off the board was a guy I thought was pretty good, and that was Justin Jefferson. I felt like that was a good value at 110, and so that started the draft off, and then what later I'm going to notate was punt, wide receiver 2, and beyond, because I didn't come back to a wide receiver until the 11th round, and so I basically drafted from 2 to 10 and didn't take another receiver after I anchored with Justin Jefferson. And I actually am pretty happy with that build as we go. I was thinking I would come back and go running back in the 2nd round, but Lamar Jackson was there, and I had him as a top 3 quarterback, or top 4, 5 quarterback, I guess you should say, and I thought that super flex he'd be long gone. And I actually debated him at 10, but thought, well, I'm not going to get Jefferson if I take him, just knowing the people drafting behind me in the 2 spots. So, and actually 2 quarterbacks went after me, but that was Dak Prescott and Kyler Murray. So when you guys know me, I like Lamar Jackson, feel like he's a running back and a quarterback. And Christian McCaffrey went to pick after. So that was what the debate was there, was should I take McCaffrey? I looked at the board and I said, you know what, there's running backs that have a potential outcome of McCaffrey. I'm not sure that there's quarterbacks that have a potential outcome of Jackson, at the 310, after we go through 14 more picks before we get back to me picking. So I decided that going Jackson made a lot of sense. And then I really focused on, I'm going to hammer my 5 running backs. So I came back in the 3rd round at 310 and got Barkley, which I thought was a pretty good value, and then going 4-3 with Cam Akers. And there's a lot of people worried about Cam Akers. I'm less worried about Cam Akers, just knowing that Sean McVay runs the wheels off the bus, off the feature back. And, he put Cam Akers in for 77 touches in 3 games in the playoffs on a bum, on a bum knee. I mean, not really a bum knee, but he's just returning from a knee injury early, and so I think it's going to be let's go, let's go this year with Akers until he gets hurt. So I feel real good about that pick at 4-3, almost like at another value. And then in the 5th round, I came back with Zeke Elliott. So now we've got 3 running backs, and I'm higher on Zeke, probably more because I think the salary dictates that they're going to run the wheels off the bus off of him as well. Even though McCarthy is going to throw, I mean, he just kind of demonstrated that, and he's also demonstrated from the days in Green Bay that he will use Pollard in the running attack. I think that Zeke will still get his. I mean, it just appears like ownership wants Zeke to get the ball because of the money that they pay him. So I think that he was a little bit banged up last year, so I don't think that we're going to see a David Johnson-like performance this year out of Zeke Elliott. I think it's going to just be a RB3 performance. Like I think he's going to be, if I was to get a 25 or higher, if you were to ask me, will he be RB 25 or higher, I'd say that there's a very good chance that he could be the top of the RB3, and I have him as an RB3. So, I mean, if you were to tell me I have the best RB3 in this league, I think that's a good statement, and all of a sudden I'm winning flex spots with said players. So, felt like that was good. In the 6th round, I went for Hawkinson, and it might have reached a little bit on that as I look at it, because I see Kittle went almost a half a round later, and so probably didn't have to get so aggressive with that. He was the guy in the Detroit offense that I kind of wanted. I thought they're going to check down to a tight end. Like, that's going to be the quarterback's best friend. He's the tight end I wanted. He's young. He's going to command targets, I think, in the offense. So, barring injury, I thought that made some sense. And it was kind of like, hey, I want to build around my receiver in Jefferson, my quarterback in Lamar, and my tight end in Hawkinson, and now I've got three, top players at the positions, and then I'm have a rule of numbers in running backs because I've got three of the top 25. Maybe not any top guy, but I've got three, so I've got a number. So in a position that gets injured a lot, if Barkley gets hurt, no big deal. We still got Akers and Elliott. If one of the other guys gets hurt, no big deal. We have the other guys, and we're just going to roll them in. And I'm gonna have enough of those top 25 running backs. It's not going to make a big difference. So at the 7-10, I did come back with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and again, I think maybe he has a little bit of a bum rap because he was not at full strength last year, and it's hard to know. I don't profess to know Andy Reid's situation, but I do have a little bit of intel there. I feel like they're working with Pat Mahomes on footwork to check down to running backs and create screens for the running backs. I don't know if that specifically is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I just know that that's what one of the off-season focuses is for Pat, is to work on the footwork to be able to throw on the run to the running backs and get the running backs the football in space. And so thought that really fit Clyde Edwards-Helaire's skill set. It probably fits Jet McKinnon's skill set as well. So I thought it did not fit Ronald Jones's skill set. So I thought, well, just looking at what it is, I think they drafted somebody that might fit the skill set as well. So it's not guaranteed to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but at the 7-10, where we are, I thought that it made sense to, go running back 4, because again, I'm kind of counting on one of my running backs getting hurt at the top, and felt like I still had value at the receiver room. That again, as you'll see, with 7 receivers, I think I can kind of make up for the lack of quality in receivers with the top end ability in the receiver room, and just have 3 of 7 play type of thing every week. I don't have to have and so if only 1 or 2 of those 7 are hurt, we still have 3 of 5. We're still okay, and it's still not a position where we're going to get killed on from that standpoint. And we're anchored with Jefferson. Now if Jefferson gets hurt, I still am not feeling like the season's lost. Like, I think there's enough receivers in the back end that I can field a decent team and put up some 8 and 10 point weeks pretty consistently with the receivers, and we'll get to those. After Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I went with quarterback 2, Jameis Winston. He's the art of garbage time. I think he just kind of heaves it down the field, and in fantasy football, he feels like Blake Bortles to me a little bit, but just throw it down there and no risk it, no biscuit, go for it. And there's another method to this madness because of how I drafted quarterbacks. So I was targeting Winston, and so it just felt like the right spot to go after him. I picked him right before Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, and Jared Goff. So those are the kind of guys that were going after him. So it felt like the right move to make to get him there. I followed up it with the 9th round and took Rashad Penny for my 5th running back. So now the running backs are done in my mind in the 9th round, and I thought Rashad Penny, coming off of last year, even though the timeshare, we're not sure, at least we know that in Seattle it's a run-heavy offense, and they want to run the football, and especially with the quarterback situation, they're going to run the football, run the football, run the football. Penny feels to me, and maybe this is just a rose-colored glasses look at Penny, but he feels like a poor man's Derrick Henry a little bit. So I think that when you watch him run, he's bigger than everybody else, but he somehow squirts through the hole, and then once he's through the hole, he accelerates at a speed where he just runs away from people. It just reminds me so much of Derrick Henry, and I don't want to get ahead of myself because maybe he's not Derrick Henry, but or he's not. Let's be straight. He's not Derrick Henry. Don't think he is. But you know what? He just shows flashes of brilliance. And so in best ball, and just like in general, I guess I like to have a lot of those kind of guys. And as the running back 5, if he can fill the flex, for having the big game, then it feels like that's a good move. And if 1 or 2 of these guys gets hurt, which is likely, then he'll be running back 3, and that's okay too. I think that we have a good chance for him to be a meaningful starter and a league-winning type. And if he gets hurt like he normally does, so it's just back to norms. If he's one of the 1 or 2s, not big deal, because then we just roll out Saquon Barkley or Cam Akers or Zeke Elliott or whatever the case is. So things are good. Coming back in the 10th round, still didn't go receiver, so still was kind of foregoing guys like let's see, Christian Kirk or Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, and D-Hop, who's going to possibly be suspended. We'll see what happens there. So I did go around those kind of guys, but I took Zach Ertz, and that was tight end too. But I really feel like with the pending suspension to D-Hop, if that holds up, that Ertz will be the number one or maybe 1A to Hollywood in the receiving game, and really has the chance to be a top 5 tight end. So all of a sudden, on any given week, or if Hockenson gets hurt, I feel really good, or if Hockenson's bye week, that I'm going to get tight end points pretty solidly every week. And if we do have that they blow up the same week, then we'll just pony up the flex. It's okay. Like if they do have that week where they both pop off 20, there's room for them in my lineup. So I kind of am built that way, and I don't have to worry about the tight ends because I feel like I've got 2 good ones, and I won't ever be taking a 0 in the tight end, even though both of them are injury prone. If they both get hurt, you'll see that I have more tight ends behind it for the third one, and we highly unlikely that 3 tight ends are going to get hurt. Maybe they will, but we should be in good shape with 3 tight ends, for that 1 tight end position. But I think there's some high upside and some ability to hit the flex with those tight ends from on any given week, and maybe 3 or 4 of the weeks may feature a tight end in the flex because 2 of them popped off because they were put in that draft capital. Now in pick 11, I came back with a receiver, and as you'll see here, I hit it hard because now I know I've neglected the position, so now it's time to hit hard. And I decided to go with receiver 2, receiver 3, with Robert Woods and Allen Lazard. And before we laugh, they're old guys that I don't draft in Dynasty, and I actually think I have 1 share of Woods and 1 share of Lazard out of close to 100 Dynasty teams. So I don't have them in my Dynasty teams. So, I have them by accident. I have them by orphan takeovers type of thing. And so they're not players I even want to have on my team on Dynasties. But let's face it, Robert Woods is the number 1 until Burks comes on in Tennessee. And even though it's a run-heavy offense, he gets the ball close to the line of scrimmage. He's kind of a featured extension to the running game, screen guy, end around guy. So I like that. And Allen Lazard is the favorite target of I think of Aaron Rodgers, and that means something. I mean, he doesn't like to throw to rookies. I think those rookies will take some time to come on. Maybe Doubs is good, maybe Watson's good, maybe Amari Rodgers is good, or even Sammy Watkins, maybe any of those guys. But I think if you were betting on who's going to be the number 1 receiver for the Packers or have them lead the team in targets, I think you have to say Allen Lazard. And so I felt like that was maybe a floor play. But again, I've got to get some stability here at wide receiver 3 in my mind. I came back in the 14th round and went Evan Engram for that 3rd tight end, and I really think that they brought him into Jacksonville to be a slot receiver. I mean, he's definitely the big slot type of tight end. I mean, they didn't bring him in the block. He's not a blocking type, and they went and sought him out, so I feel like they have a role for him. I don't know what that role is. I feel like he's Laviska Shenault or even ETN a little bit, kind of the same type of thing without the running game in ETN's space. But I think that they went and got him for a reason, so I think they'll use him, and so I'm just looking for those big games when he's not hurt. So as you notice there, I went with 3 tight ends. They all get hurt, but when they play well, and so that's kind of how I built the team. I'm just going to bank on that all 3 won't be hurt the same week, but even if they miss a little bit of time, I think any of the 3 of them could be a top 5 tight end, which then propels the tight end points. Came back and went with my second Detroit Lion, which is always a scary thought, getting too much involved in that offense. I went with DJ Chark, and I'm hesitant on this Chark pick because typically receivers go into new teams, new offenses, do not do well. He only got $10 million, so compared to Christian Kirk's $20 million, that tells me that I don't know, either Jacksonville doesn't know how to pay receivers because they thought that Christian Kirk's double the player that Chark is, or Chark is still injured and nobody knows about it and he's on a prove-it deal, or so I can't really figure out there. But again, we're looking at pick 15-10, and at that point, we're pretty far into the draft, and most people are not picking their wide receiver. They're not down to picking their wide receiver 5 at this point. So maybe they're a little bit further in the game, but I went with him as my wide receiver 5, hoping that there's a couple 3 touchdown games for him in the mix, and or something crazy, or he gets back to some of that Jacksonville heave it world, and so The only thing that I really based that pick on is that he was, catching balls from Jared Goff in the offseason. I mean, hopefully that matters. I don't know if it matters or not, but, I thought at this point he was just kind of the best player, that I could take. Jamison Crowder, don't know his role in Buffalo. KJ Osborne, these are the guys that I overlooked at this point. Laviska Shenault. I like Terrence Marshall, but I thought that Chark even offered a little bit better. We've seen it before floor, so at this point I'm trying to solidify the receiver room and play upside. I then decided to pick 16, and I needed to get that third quarterback. And I was debating this the whole game because I knew that I was going to have 5 quarterbacks, and you'll see what I did the last 2. But I was like, do I want that third? And I decided here that I was going to take Baker Mayfield. There's a little bit of talk that he would get traded to Seattle, and I didn't want him to get traded to Seattle. And this was more of a board play, and then somebody to pick him up and get a free starting quarterback. So I thought, you know what? It's likely he's going to start somewhere. And so all I need him is to be starting by week 10 to cover the buys for Lamar, and then week 14 to cover the buy for Winston. So in theory, I could cover all of my bye weeks in the Superflex with Mayfield if he's ready to go and starting for some team by week 10. So I said, you know what? I'm going to just bank on that he's going to have a place to play by week 10 and be a starter, unless he's hurt. But we're not going to worry about that. In this case, because otherwise, then I'll just have to put one of the other guys in a Superflex. But barring that, we're gonna definitely have him for that purpose. So pick 16. It felt like if I was gonna take a gamble, I was gonna do it there, and so I did. And then coming back at 17 and 18, I was feeling like, okay, I need to round out this receiving core. I went with some upside guys, and so I thought you need to do upside guys, but I went with Bryan Edwards, figuring that at the beginning of the year, maybe at least he's going to start with old-time friend that he's been working out with, Mariota. And I think there's a reason that they brought him in, because I think he worked on the second team with Mariota a lot. He just didn't vibe well with Carr. But he was practicing with Mariota, then they went and got him. So maybe I'm higher on Edwards than most, but I think that there's something there, especially until the young guys get going. I think there's going to be a lot of coverage fading to London, fading to Pitts, and maybe Edwards with single coverage on the outside can win, and there's a comfort level with Mariota there as well. So I just need him to get hot and be something a couple of weeks, and then this pick makes sense at 17-10. Went with Paris Campbell at round 18, and I think he's another one of these high upside guys. One of the things that led me to him is when he plays really well, and he's also working out with the first team. Now, I don't understand Frank Wright. I think he likes to spread the ball around. He likes to be smarter than me, which he is. He's just definitely smarter than me. But he just likes to get cute, and he likes everybody to score touchdowns. So I'm just hoping that maybe there's a Paris Campbell week, where and so with your wide receiver 7, you just need there to be a couple weeks of this high upside. So that's my opinion there. Now, round 19 and 20, I guess I'm really anxious to hear what you guys think about these 2 picks. I decided that I was going to handcuff my quarterbacks, because this way, with Tyler Huntley, Andy Dalton, and so that's why I said there was a reason that I made the picks that I did in the quarterbacks. When I could get Lamar Jackson, I thought that possibly Tyler Huntley was one of the bigger upside backups, and if Lamar went down for any period of time, it would be nice to just be like, okay, let's go. Like, it's still points on the board with Tyler Huntley. Like, he's still going to produce points. And I thought the same way with Andy Dalton. He's a former starter. He's going to put up a nice floor worth of points and runs a little bit, not as much as Jameis, but he's going to offer some high upside, going to make the throws, going to throw touchdown passes. Likely he's going to throw 3 touchdowns if the offense is good. Like, they're not going to change everything all around because, oh no, Andy Dalton's in. And the same thing in Baltimore. They're not going to be like, oh no, we have a backup quarterback, we can't run our offense. I think that would happen in Cincinnati if it was Brandon Allen. I think it would happen in Kansas City a little bit if it was Chad Henne. And so I think there are places. I think it would happen in Buffalo a little bit. So if those quarterbacks go down, I think they would happen. But I don't think it's going to happen in Baltimore. I don't think it's going to happen in New Orleans. And so I felt like it picked 19 and picked 20. And I didn't overlook very many people. I mean, I was losing out on Baxton Berrios, Tutu Atwell, Amari Rodgers, Julio Jones, Guyton and Shepard, because I would have went receiver with those 2 picks, and those are the receivers that went. And I did have Quez Watkins in my queue in case something went funky and somebody picked my guys, but and I specifically only wanted those 2 backup quarterbacks, and I specifically didn't want to draft Jimmy G, who was still available, because I didn't want to get into taking potential starters. I wanted to do a security blanket on my starters so that I'm sure that no matter what happens, unless 2 quarterbacks get hurt in Baltimore, I've got the Baltimore offense and I've got a quarterback in that quarterback 1 position the rest of the year. And it doesn't matter what happens in New Orleans, even if Taysom gets a couple snaps, as long as Andy Dalton doesn't get hurt and Jameis gets hurt, I've got another quarterback in that super flex. And on the bye week 10, I've got a quarterback in the QB1 spot, so I'm always going to get quarterback points. I'm never going to take a 0. So I feel like I'm not going to take a 0 at tight end. I'm not going to take a 0 at quarterback. Those are those single position places. And then I think with 5 running backs and 7 receivers, I shouldn't take a 0 with 2 running backs or 3 receivers starting. And then, unless I got 10 injuries or something and 3 people on bye, then the numbers just don't work. But as long as I have a moderate 4 injuries out of my 20-man roster, it really doesn't matter what position those injuries are happening at. I just keep going like a well-oiled machine, and that's what I'm kind of looking at now. I'm anxious to hear the thoughts, because then I'm done with the draft, right? I feel like this is a very balanced team, or one of the more balanced teams in the league. What I'm not sure is if the floor is too high and the ceiling is too low. And I wonder if in a 12-team league you have to just shoot for the stars and just play the lottery, be like a GPP. And I wonder if I played a cash game lineup in a best ball lineup. I just wonder if I played a little bit too cash to try to be in the top 50%, because that's sort of my mentality. Make it to the playoffs, get in the top 6 spots in a 12-team league, and then win, and then get hot at the end. It is kind of how I play, but I'm churning all year long to just get in the playoffs and then win at the end, and kind of feeling like, of course I want the 1 or 2 seed, but I don't get hung up on the 1 or 2 seed. I just want to get in the playoffs and then get hot at the end, and have the team that is hot at the end. And so that's sort of the breakdown of what I did here in this best ball. So I'd love to hear your comments, hear what you guys think. Hear if you think that, it's good you don't play best ball because you're not good at this. Put it out there. I mean, definitely give me your feedback. I'm excited about this league. I mean, this was just such a blast for me to draft with these guys. These guys are like the superstars in fantasy football, and I could just tell by the way the draft picks were going, and the thought that's involved, in the theories that are there, and just our message board chats are unbelievable. And I just want to put a shout out to Commissioner Matt for putting this together, and I get to play him as a head-to-head matchup. Not that it means anything besides just it's a head-to-head on the app, but we're going to play 17 weeks of basically top score wins. But we have a little side wager on that week 1 matchup, and so it won't get into the amount, but definitely a friendly side wager going on with Matt in week 1. And so let me know if you think my team's better than Matt's team in week 1, and can I beat him? Can I take home the cash? That's important in this game. We want to be the best at winning money. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, and definitely subscribe to the channel. Just love all the content that you guys watch for me, and if you have any ideas of future videos, let me know. I'm excited for a new studio coming later this summer, so be bringing you a little bit better backdrops and maybe a green screen and some other good lighting features, and really putting this show on the road as the clown show really takes it to the next level. But thanks for bearing with me at the beginning, and we'll look back on these videos and laugh about them, I'm sure, as we go. But thanks for watching, and until next time, I'm the Fantasy Clown with the Fantasy Football Clown Show, your host, Ed Smith.